Okay, I'm running out of steam. This is my final video, I think. I'm going to be going over all of our journals that we did this year, as well as our Wizard of Oz booklets that we made. So if you're interested in what we did for 3rd grade and learning more about if I liked it or not, stay tuned. Okay, our cat is currently fighting with the door, so again, apologies if it gets loud. I'm also running out of steam as we're getting used to it being home after being 3 hours away, like time zone wise, and yeah, my body is just it's not recouping like I was hoping it would. So the first thing I'm gonna go over, so we'll do reading first, we'll do social studies, and we'll do science. Those are the 3 things that we really did more of hands-on type things. These are little booklets that we made for each of our Wizard of Oz books that we read together. We read them through pretty quickly, which in hindsight, I would have preferred to have read them slower, maybe a chapter a day as opposed to 3, sometimes 4. Some days that would be a 30-minute read. Sometimes it'd be an hour read. And yeah, I know it was a lot. And so I think if I were to do this again, I would encourage people to just not do as many books and to do them like a much slower read. But just kind of give you an idea what we did. They would get the cover that they decorated how they liked. The name was there. And then on the inside, I asked them to do a few things. As we read the books, these were basically summaries of what we read. So you can see chapter 1 through 3, 4 through 6, yada yada, so on and so forth. So we were doing 3 to 4 chapters. At the beginning, we would do this part together. So early in the year, we would talk about what it is that happened. I would help them to formulate sentences for each chapter. And then they were in charge of drawing a picture that went with the chapters. As the year progressed, it became where then they would start writing the sentences on the board and we would talk through it together, and they would take turns, and then transition to them just writing the sentences on their own on the board. I might help them like with a word or try to stretch vocab. And at the very end of the year, it was literally them doing their own sentences and doing their own writing. So that's how it kind of transitioned. But that happened every time we read. They have a rating foldable here. And these are things I found on Teachers Pay Teachers. There was that. They picked a character that was their favorite, and they had to tell me why they were their favorite. And then here, this is kind of just like for me to see if they understood what they were reading or listening to. So, and it's just a little flip book. So title, characters, settings, problem, and the solution. This is a really nice one, very, very cutesy. Throughout the year, you could tell we were all getting really tired with it. So like here, not as cutesy, still okay. But like the pictures aren't as fully fledged out anymore. But the sentences are still good. And like the handwriting got a little wonky, but this was more for understanding than it was for like penmanship. So I wasn't too worried about that. As long as I could read it, that's all I cared about. But we had one of these for each of the books that we read. So it would take us about 2, sometimes 3 weeks to finish the books. And I had an actual list. So like, we're reading this day. Like I had it scheduled out. And then I'd give them a day or 2 to complete their folders before we started the next book. So yeah, we did all of the books that were written by L. Frank Baum. And then it transitioned to a different author because he passed away. And we read her first book, which was the Royal Book of Oz, I think. So I want to say it's like 14, 15 books, something like that. That's what we read. That's what we did. So that was the folder component anyway. And we have just like a big pile of them. So that was the read aloud we did together. They also had independent reading. And these were books that I assigned to them to read. And essentially they had 2 per term. One would read A book, one would read B book, and then when they finished, they would flip, and then B and A. And the books I picked based on the fact that the Wizard of Oz books were written in the early 1900s. So the books that I picked out for them to read independently were also either written during that time frame or took place during that time frame. We also kept track of how many words we read throughout the year. So between the Wizard of Oz and these, we read just over 1.5 million words. But each one had a checklist for what chapters you're supposed to read each day. And I would just we did a 4-day week this year. And so that's what you would see: 4 days of reading for week 1, 4 days of reading for week 2. And then when I started the year, I had these little generic questions that I just found on Teachers Pay Teachers. I quickly learned that I didn't really like that so much. It didn't allow me to hear like understanding from the boys, and so I changed it and did my own questions. So yeah, that's what they would do. After each day's reading, they would do a response. And then before moving on to their next book, they would do a book brochure. Let's see if I can pull this one out without messing up his stuff. Got these cute little paper clips so it wouldn't fall out of the pocket. This is also on Teachers Pay Teachers, but it just makes it's a little brochure that they make that basically just tries to show me, did they understand what they are reading? So you have the title, they tell you about the setting, words that describe the story, they tell me a summary of the book, their opinion of the book, they give it a rating, they tell me the main characters and who their favorite character is. And then this section was really interesting. It's called Making Connections. And so this is how they're supposed to connect their book to their actual life. And then there was a section on like publication, company, and the year. And that's how we would finish out that particular book. And then once they were done, we'd go on to the next one. And same thing, 4 days, and then we would keep going. And so their little booklet has the tabs for each of their books. Like I said, as the year went on, I would try transition to actual like questions that I wrote out. And at the beginning of the year, I did a really good job of reading alongside them. I fizzled out about halfway through, picked back up again. Ideally, I would like to have been reading them alongside them, just because I feel like the questions and the conversations in here were better when I did that. So actually, I'm already, to try to get ahead of that, I've been reading the books that I have picked out for next year ahead of time, so that when we get to that time, even if I read it like, 20 something years ago, it's more fresh on my mind, and I can have better conversations with them. We're not going to do it quite like this yet, but if you want to know what we're going to do, check out my future videos about 4th grade and what that's going to look like, because next year we're going to be focusing on like wilderness books, which I think is going to be great for the boys going into 4th grade. Okay, transitioning now into social studies. This one we ended up having 2 journals for, because it just filled up so quickly. We used the Tuttle Twins, the big workbook, or like textbook looking books. There's volume 1 and volume 2. Just yesterday, as I'm filming this, they have pre-orders for book number 3, which I'm not sure when we're going to be getting that or using it, but the boys are excited about it, so that'll tell you something. They love the Tuttle Twins. They love the books. The stories, the characters have been really interesting, something that they've enjoyed throughout the year. So these books are tabbed based on the chapter and the volume in the chapter. And basically all I did was your table of contents. Basically all I did was when you purchase the books, it comes with a PDF of like activities you can do, like a workbook. And so I just picked and choose some things. So like this one was a vocabulary one. This one I kind of made myself based on what discussion was in the workbook, but it was talk about the trade routes. And so we created this in here. And then other times there were like experiments. So here is the experiment page. Again, I like to print things really tiny, and which is great in some ways and then also not great in others. But anyway, for the sake of this, it was okay. It got all the information on there. And then I went through and I added pictures. In fact, I need to go back and add pictures for the last part of the year because I didn't continue with that. So I do need to go back with that. But one of my favorite things, like we would do a game. There's always a game. Typically some sort of like food or something. Oh, the doorbell just rang. I'll be right back. Okay, sorry, it's been a minute. We had some fun. We had fiber. Someone talked to us about fiber, and it took a little bit. So I'm back. Warm, but I'm back. But before the doorbell had rang because of that, but I was saying how we played games within this curriculum, and I would take pictures and put them in to help us remember what we were doing. And toward the end of the year, I didn't do that. So I need to get back to doing that. But my favorite thing, what I was trying to say, one of my favorite things that we did, let me find one. Here we go. John Locke. So what we would do research on someone that had to do with the chapter that we were just talking about. And sometimes we would read books about them, chapter books, picture books. Sometimes we would watch videos on YouTube about these individuals, or I can't think of the name of the cartoon. There was a cartoon, Patriot Kids, I think. I can't remember, that's what it's called. But I ended up buying the whole series because they were so precious. But there's just all kinds of resources, anyway, online. We would find a resource, we would watch several of them, and then they would write a little blurb on whoever it is that we were studying, and they would also decorate the picture frame. And so this actually has a stand on the back, and it can stand up just like it's on a shelf. In the beginning of the year, I didn't require as much writing, but by the end of the year, we were filling up the whole page with information. But we studied, like, George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, John Locke, Alexander Hamilton, the First Continental Congress, the Federalist and Anti-Federalist. Like, sometimes I would give them 2 options and they could pick one. But yeah, it went over into 2 journals. So this also has part of our stuff in it. And you can't really tell from this, but at the beginning of the year, I did a lot more than I did toward the end. Some of the activities, when I was planning, I was like, oh yeah, that'd be great. And then when we were actually in the middle of doing it, it was not so great. Or it just fell at a rough time because of us moving and stuff. So like it was a lot more intensive, and I just didn't have the time to do the activity, if that makes sense. So anyway, and there's actually a couple in here that I want to go back and do later on. Like one of the things said for us to go visit a local like historical place, and we actually already had a visit to the Capitol building in Alabama with our co-op. So we've done that, but now we need to go back in here and write down about it. So anyway, I really enjoyed Total Twins. The workbook pages were okay. They wrote them in such a way to where it'd be for a wide range of ages, so I understand that. So some of it was like way over the kids' heads. Other times, most of them were great. There's just a couple that was like, whoa, which would be great for your older kids. But we learned some really cool like websites we could go through it. Just a lot of really neat things. But I created a system. Basically, we did 6 days. So I remember this past year I did a 4-day week. So we would do 6 days per lesson. So like volume 1, chapter 1 would be 6 days. And we would do a journal. We would do something to do with the map, vocabulary, a game, a food or a craft, and then we would do timeline. And the timeline thing, I love the idea of it. I'm really bad about sticking to it, so that kind of fell off toward the end of the year. But overall, in the biography too was also something we would do throughout the week. So anyway, loved it. Loved Total Twins. I'm okay. I'm happy with how I did their journals. Could it have been better? Absolutely. But considering what it was, I'm happy with it. So, and then last we have science. It's all just in one. I created my science this year using the objectives and things from Texas, because that's what I'm familiar with. I basically just went to the 3rd grade. They're called TEKS or TEX, depending on how you were taught. And they're just learning objectives. And I went through all the science ones and broke up our year into those. And then from that, I found Magic School Bus videos and incorporated those in as well. A friend had given me some experiments that also incorporated the Magic School Bus, so we did those when it fit in. It was kind of just like a mashup of things, and then I would go on Teacher Pay Teachers and I would find interesting journal pages or activities that we could add to our journals, and that's basically how we did our year. So like term 1 was all about scientists, and so we basically said that I'm a scientist. We did a short about what scientists are. We have pictures. Like, again, I need to go back in and add more pictures. We did the same thing we did in social studies with we did Isaac Newton, Thomas Alva Edison, Alexander Graham Bell, Jane Goodall was one that Connor picked. And then we did tools scientists use. So basically the whole first term was all about scientists. Second one was properties of matter. So this is when we started talking about magnetism and mass and a little bit of like density and things. And we made ice cream. And like, here's one of the Magic School Bus. We would just watch the video and then do the comprehension paper that I found online. Term 3 was Earth and Space. Term 4 was Force, Motion, and Energy. 5 was Our Changing Earth. 6 was Organisms in the Environment. And then 7 was all about ecosystems, which was really cool. I really liked that one. We actually went into different factors and things, and I found there were some really cool things on Teachers Pay Teachers that we did. So like, you get this little habitat, it has a habitat page. When you pull this out, sorry, I'm doing this backwards, so here we go. It talks about the different habitats here. So we made stuff like that, and little biome postcards. Oh, and here we did abiotic and biotic components of different ecosystems. So there you go. So the foldables, excuse me, I really enjoy the foldables from whenever I taught in public school, and so it was really fun doing that with the boys. And then term 8 was their animal study, so there's nothing really in here. They made little lap books about their animals. This is one of the things that I was not happy with myself about, but this is totally just me, because nobody did anything wrong. I had set up this would be a 4-week-long activity, but with the move and stuff, it ended up being like 4 days. So I would like to have gone deeper with this than what we did, but they enjoyed it. Connor studied owl, snowy owl, and Liam studied lions. And in fact, we added little QR codes so you could scan that and it would take you to a video and you could hear the noise that it made. And then they actually compared and contrasted their animals. So like, it's very simple. Really, probably this is even more like a 1st grade thing, I feel like. It's not 3rd grade, but it's okay. We digress. But yeah, that was our science. Next year, I actually have a curriculum that we're going to be using and adding to from other things. Next year is going to be, I don't even know how I'm going to do it all. Every year I'm like, I'm going to make this more easy and more streamlined. And then I end up adding a lot of stuff. So if you're interested on seeing what we're going to do in 4th grade, stay tuned. I do plan on making a video. I know it's been a hot minute since I made any, but that is the plan. And I will hopefully share with you all the things. I do know I did some planning videos in the past you can kind of see, but I'll actually go through each individual thing with you and let you see it. If you have any questions, let me know. Are you using journals in your homeschooling? Do you like journals? I love them. Always looking for ways to incorporate them. Okay, I'm gonna let y'all go. I need to cool off. Bye.